Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lukhaup and this trip takes us to Madagascar, an island that always interested me. Why? Because many of the species we know as crustacean enthusiasts, as fish enthusiasts, are really on the brink of extinction. Well, that's my opinion, which now has been confirmed after I was there. And I thought, let's go there, let's see what is left of them, and let's see if I can film them before they disappear completely. Madagascar is geoecologically one of the oldest islands in the history of the Earth. And these are islands that have been separated from the mainland for a long geological period. This unique flora and fauna is particularly threatened on Madagascar. Since the colonization of the island, the disappearance of many animal species has resulted from the growth of the population. Of course, there is still hunting there. And people also collect, especially in the rural areas. They go out, collect fish, crayfish, whatever they can find to eat. And cattle farming is also very important here. That means areas, forested areas, are cleared. The forest is burned to create land for rice fields, for fields in general. Rice fields are omnipresent, they're everywhere. So this means Madagascar really is extremely endangered. I've seen a lot. I have like 60 expeditions, even more. But I think Madagascar is one of the countries I don't even know if I should have still hope, but in my opinion there's no hope, especially for many animal species. And that's why I'm happy that I was able to film them, and because I think in the next 5 to 6 years, maybe 10 years, some of the species that I show here will be endangered or even gone. The Madagascan constitution stipulates environmental protection as a national objective, but nobody cares. The authorities don't care, the people who live in the countryside or in the city don't care anyway, and according to the government, the area of nature reserves is to be tripled in the government plan, but I don't believe. And before the arrival of the first settlers, the island was probably almost completely forested, and today 4% of the rainforest of that times is still out there. 4% is left, the rest has been destroyed. And most of the nature or the forest that is still there are either introduced plants, and really only small amounts of the original primeval forests is still there. And with that, of course, there are fewer species, native species. The only ones that probably don't have so much, they're not so much endangered, are chameleons. They are not eaten, so the children play with them, we saw that a lot, and from time to time they also want to sell them to tourists, but other than that, people leave them alone. I flew from Mauritius to Madagascar. That meant it was only a 1-hour flight. Mauritius really inspired me. I have a lot of hope there. And even when you fly over Madagascar, you can see that a lot of forest has been cleared there, and the green areas that are still there are actually rice fields and dry savanna, covered usually with eucalyptus. And here we have the map of Madagascar, and the red point there is Mauritius, so not really a long flight. And from the airport to the hotel, you can see where the problem is. It's an absolute chaos, a hustle and bustle. You get a culture shock. And we have booked a hotel in a somewhat poorer area, or in fact every area in Antananarivo, that's the capital, is poor. You can already see the problem here, overpopulation, nobody follow any rules, but in fact we kind of expect that from these countries, I guess. What really touched me are the kids on the street, homeless kids, and I took them out and tried to feed them over the period that I was in Antananarivo, but it's impossible to feed them all. So, but also when you see there is, in these containers is really bad food and people looking for food there. So they're looking for something edible, and this is an absolute culture shock. It makes you sweat, it makes you think. And what in the first moment looks funny, these cars, they should have been out of traffic for many years, but here they're still driving them because they cannot afford better. So absolute culture shock. In the first 2 or 3 days, I just had a look at the cultural life in Tana because we had to wait for permits from the government and the university. And then In this time I visited the markets, and they say a lot about the population, so that's why I went there. And of course you cannot expect a market like in Western Europe or the Western world. This is a little bit difficult, I think, especially when it comes to hygienic things. This is for us a little bit, we need to get used to it, let's put it this way. But I came here because I wanted to see, is there any invertebrates, of course, and I found shrimp, but I could not clearly say if they are freshwater or brackish water. I was looking for fish then also, because in every market on the countryside, but also in Tana, you find live fish. But these are all not native fish. These are tilapia, and up there you see swordtails. So I was looking at the vegetables and the fruits, and look at these avocados. They're monster avocados. I have never seen that big avocados in my life. And if it comes to meat, well, the way they present it, I was happy that I was a vegetarian, and I think you understand that, and that is all over the country. But coming back to the shrimp, these are, in my view, they look like some brackish water palemonetes. They look like, of course, they're dry. Here we have some Macrobrachym rosenbergi. They grow pretty big, up to 38-40 centimeters. Then we had crabs as well. And in nearly every market on the trip I saw crabs. And here's some German literature from the good old times. And of course not all the food was problematic, I would put it like that. There have been some good restaurants as well. But I was like getting more towards the fruits, the vegetables, because there have been so many fruits and vegetables that I have not eaten before. I mean, I've been all over the planet, but still, in Madagascar you have some stuff that looks pretty different. So I stuck to vegetables, to rice, of course, and to interesting fruits. Later today we went to the university to talk to the officials because we need papers for this trip. And here also I saw my first coelacanth. And these fish, they are like 400 million years old, or at least they have been around more than 410 million years. And this was the first coelacanth I ever have seen. So the next day we went out of the town, and it was about time, because when I arrived in Tana, in the first day I could feel my chest very heavy because of all the pollution and the exhaust fumes of the cars. So that really got me in trouble there. And we went to the countryside, to a national park, and everywhere you could see people collecting something, trying to fish, trying to collect something to survive. And here we can see this is one of the national foods. I forgot the name, and of course there's a lot of meat, sausages, but this national food is very special for Madagascar. They make it out of rice, and my friends mostly eat rice like 3 times a day. And before I went out to this trip, I went to the market. I bought some color pencils for the kids. I bought a lot of them, so because I knew that I will meet a lot of kids and I wanted to make them happy, so I bought several packages, I think like 60 or 70 of these, and I gave them away because you probably know that I'm an artist, and before I give them money I better give them something that the kids can really use, because the parents probably will take their money if I give them money.
Thank you.
So a lot of kids don't go to school during the day. They try to help their parents in the house, like sorting out rice and cultivating rice, or working in the household. So this is the future of the kids as well. They are working as farmers probably then later on, and school has not that importance. And here you can see how they still work with the rice in a very traditional way. When the wind comes, it takes the sprout, I think it's called, away, so just the rice corn stay. And here we can see this has been our car, which was a pretty good car, but this is a typical road in Madagascar, and this is one of the better ones. So you have some good streets, but most of the time it looks like this. And so traveling is pretty complicated in my view in Madagascar, and it takes a long time until you get to places. And I got out of the car because this bridge was a bit tricky. If you can see, you cannot walk over this bridge when you're drunk because you will probably fall inside, and I was always very worried with the people that cross the bridge. Look at that. I mean, it's like 15-20 meters and then you probably land in the water, but anyway, you know. So I better got out of the car and walked. So this was also the first river where we made a stop for like an hour, and I tried to find some crayfish, but I found crabs. And in Madagascar there are like 11 species of crabs, all endemic, and those are from the genus Hydrotelphusa. I didn't take any with me, so here in this case I think it's Hydrotelphusa madagascariensis, but I'm not sure, because if I want to key them out, I have to take them, put them under microscope, and I'm not a real expert on the crabs of Madagascar. But in this case, I'm pretty sure that they are from the genus Hydrotelphusa. So all of them, all 11 species, endemic to Madagascar, and those I also found on the markets in very big numbers. So I was concerned about that people could eat them all, but in this place I found a pretty decent number of crabs, different colors, some were light, some were dark, but in fact all the same genus, the same species. And here you can see how they are served on the countryside, probably fried or dried. I have not tried them, so I don't know. I also found some interesting plants, of course. This looks like a chara algae, and the water was not very clear here. That's why probably no crayfish anymore. In the past probably there have been crayfish, but with the water polluted like this, they probably got extinct. And this plant looked very familiar to me. I know it from the pet shops all over the world. In fact, I have seen it. It's called Apanocheton madagascariensis and is usually found in flowing waters on the island of Madagascar. Its lacy leaf structure is unique, so it was easy to recognize it. But it is a challenge for the hobbyists, and this since the 50s. So there are two varieties of Apanocheton madagascariensis, but this looked like variety madagascariensis. So it's a very long name, Apanocheton madagascariensis, variety madagascariensis. There's another variety that's called Henkelianus, and another variety called major with broad leaves and swallow-tailed white or yellowish flowers. These ones are pink. So we arrived pretty late, so we took a hotel around the corner, and in the next morning, 7 o'clock, our expedition started again. Here my friends, that we had a driver for Madagascar. You have to have a driver. You can rent a car, but it comes with a driver, so you have to take him. I was happy for that, because for things like this, I was not so much in the mood. I think I'm a good driver, but to do stuff like that and then you have an accident or something breaks. So I went again out of the car, I walked behind the car, because just a little, you know, like if the wood breaks or something, you just move the wheel too much to the left or to the right because one of the wood is moving or something can happen, and you probably will have a bigger problem then. So happy that the guy drove the car and I could relax and just walk behind the car. But most bridges I have seen in Madagascar are like this, especially when you go out of the big cities. It could be a real problem. And let me know in the comments if you would have driven the car over this bridge. I'm really curious if you are much more brave than me. And this is a typical shop on the countryside where they offer breakfast, mostly fruits. They have some of these monster avocados. I had one the day before, tasting great, then some bananas. I have no idea what these little things are. They look like peanuts, maybe they are. Some peaches and some more peanuts there. So bananas, peaches, or at least they look like. The lady was selling this for breakfast. So we came here to this national park. It's a protection area, and it took us about 3 or 5 hours to arrive here. And usually you have a guide if you go to the forest, but I didn't want to. I said I will happily walk alone because I don't want to have anyone beside me or behind me who pushes me or who pays attention on me. I want to experience what is left of the jungle on my own. And you can find stuff everywhere. Everywhere you go, you find little insects, you find chameleons. So this was the start of the so-called jungle, and I prepared to go in. Here you can see the rice fields, the last rice fields, and then where the trees are is the jungle starting. And in this place where it is like from the rice fields to the beginning of the jungle or to the jungle, you find most of the insects. In the jungle itself, not so much, but just when you come out of the jungle, there's more light, more plants variety, probably you will find insect. And this insect is very typical for Madagascar. It's a giraffe insect, I think that's how they call it. And of course I was interested in everything. I didn't came here just to look at fish or to find the crayfish. I wanted to look at everything. And there has been a lot of interesting insects, so I filmed them. And I hope that you like it too, because we have to look at everything in nature. And I did. I could film about, well, let's say over 100 species of insects. I filmed, I photographed, and I just want to show you some. This is probably an undescribed wasp species, very beautiful. The caterpillars, I don't know exactly what they are. Many of them really crazy looking. Butterflies, a lot of butterflies. And these little frogs, they have been like under an inch, like 1 centimeter. They sat in the full sunlight outside, and I wonder because usually they hide during daylight, but these guys in full sunlight outside, impressive, but tiny. And of course you expect chameleons. I've seen many of them in different colors, but I'm not an expert on chameleons, so I cannot tell you what species exactly they are. Some of them I could find out, but others I did not. And what the people in Madagascar told me about chameleons is that they don't get eaten because there's nearly no meat on them. So that is what is protecting them. And it's really difficult to find out what species they are because some, they can change the color depending on where they are sitting on leaves or on trees or whatever, on the floor, on the dirt. So this makes them, this shows them in different color forms, and then this is confusing because sometimes males and females can have different colorations as well, or morphological features, and they look different. So that makes it very tricky, but they are interesting creatures. And this little guy, he always tried to hide from me. And the juveniles also look different from the adults. Look at him, so cute. I usually don't use that word, but these guys are really cute, and he's trying to escape. He's always watching me. And of course there's plenty of cool spiders, and one of the most interesting spiders is the one that always was like around me on this trip into the jungle. And especially when you come to a place where there's not that many trees, maybe some trees have been fallen and there's a little more space, you find these guys. And I was wondering when I ran into them with my face and I wanted to get the web off my face, why is it so strong? Because this is Darwin's bark spider, Cereostris darwini. And it's an orb weaver spider that produces the largest known orb webs, ranging from 900 to 28,000 square centimeters, that's about 140 to 4,340 square inch, with bridge lines spanning up to 25 meters, that's about 82 feet. And the spider was just recently, a couple of years, described like in 2009. And its silk is the toughest biological material ever studied. And that's why I was wondering, what the hell is going on? Why is this so strong? And then later when I did the research, I found out about it. Isn't that interesting? It's scary too, but it's interesting first of all, because when you run into the web and you see the spider in your face, that's not funny for a moment. And like in spiders, the small ones are the males, like you have seen. So I continued my way into the jungle because in fact I was here to check out for crayfish, and of course I love also to just enjoy the forest when I see all these beautiful trees and the plants around me, and you hear the birds singing, the ferns especially, they just mind-blowing. And it was like I walk in a terrarium. I was just looking for the dart frogs or for Geosarma. But I came here because of the crayfish, and I checked the creek. I turned a couple of rocks, but for a long time I have found nothing except insects and spiders, of course, and these beautiful moths. So the first day, no success with the freshwater invertebrates. Even if it got dark, I was still in the jungle, but then I decided to return. I was exhausted from walking the jungle. So I decided just to come outside and just watch the jungle for a minute, listen to the birds, to the insects, and just observe and keep the moment for probably forever, because this was a really beautiful place and I enjoyed it. So we have to try next morning. So we jumped into the car, there's the sunset, and for like 15 kilometers, that's about 8 miles, we took like 1 hour 20 because we had a driver. But look at the car, this is a like off-road car. If I was the driver, I think as a German, we would have been home in like 20 minutes because I would drive this car and not carry it over this road. I think I would have been much faster. So we came to this little town and they had like a grocery store here. Isn't it interesting? And the next morning I said, well, I have to work harder to find the crayfish. So I went through a swampy area with my boots. You know what they say, die with your boots on. But in Madagascar there's no like poisonous snakes and I think no ticks and stuff like that. So I was not too worried about it. I just was a little bit afraid that I could break my leg to fall in one of those holes. But yeah, it went well. So here I just, this is not the real jungle, this is the beginning of the jungle. But it's a swampy area, so I was hoping to find some crayfish there. But no success there. So the guys that have been with me, they said they will get somebody that is used to catch crayfish for food. So now he protects the crayfish, but let's see what he proposes. So yes, the guide had an idea to get some bait, like worms in this case, and we put them on a stick so he can put the stick under the rocks, because under the big rocks probably some crayfish, but we could not get them out. So I followed him. It took a while and we really tried. The water was not too much, it was like 10-20 centimeters high, so just a couple of inch, and I tried to be quiet, but no success for a very long time. What I found was again crabs, and the interesting thing is that here the crabs and the crayfish live together in one habitat, and that is not so often on the planet that you have crabs and crayfish together, because usually the crabs dominate the crayfish and they will probably drive them to extinction in that specific place. But here it seems to work pretty well. And my guide was still working, and he was a patient guy. I was not that patient. I wanted to get the crayfish. I would have dug them out, but look at the big rock. And he was sitting there waiting that the crayfish grabs the stick with the bait and then he can drag it out. Because I didn't want to wait forever, I looked around and I went to this little creek, beautiful place, more cool than of course outside in the jungle. It's always a little bit more cool, and because of the trees the water is also more cool. So usually in these creeks with the crayfish there should be some shrimps as well. So I took a look for shrimp and I found this Macrobrachium. And in Madagascar we have Macrobrachium, but in fact there's no person, no scientist that really works in this area with the Macrobrachium. This could be very well a new species, I don't know. I have not taken any samples because we didn't have permission to take animals back. I mean, the team took some water measurements, but no animals back. They said they want to come back. All right. And also this crab, it looks like a juvenile to me, but it could be also very well a new species. So in the crabs we have the same problem. There's no person, as far as I know, that works with these kind of crabs in Madagascar. And then of course I found these guys, and I was happy to find them because finally some freshwater shrimp, even if they are not that colorful, I found it very interesting. And we have 5 genera that occur on the island of freshwater shrimp. There is the genus Atoida with 1 species. Cardina we have described, I think, 21 species. There is a Cardina looking genera that is called Monsamnis with 1 described species, and Parisia, whatever it's called, with 4 species. And I think that from the shrimp from the genus Parisia are mostly cave dwellers. And there is also another genus that is called Typhlopaca with 1 species. So this is in general the freshwater species of the island, but of course there has to be much work done to really have a good overview over the freshwater shrimp of Madagascar. Like I said, not very colorful, but interesting. And in the meantime, is the stick moving a little bit? Not at all. Well, hopefully we can drag out this crayfish because it is sitting there. The stick was moving a little bit, so definitely there is a crayfish. Can you see the stick moving? And it's not Macrobrachium because they also come to the stick and to the worm, but not with such power. And here we can see it. It's trying to grab the worms, and I was super happy that it was finally a crayfish because in fact I came here because of them. And there's also Macrobrachium sitting on the stick with the worm. Can you see that? And this was this beautiful female. I think it looks like a female. Yes, it's a female. Yeah. And powerful claws, beautiful color, not that big because the big ones are all gone. They're eaten by the population. That's why they're close to extinction. The people hunted them down, they ate them, and that's why there's not that many crayfish around. Of course, we released them, we didn't take any, just trying to film and photograph them. This was my first Astacoides in the wild. I have been collecting like 500 species all over the planet, but this was my first time in Madagascar, first time to catch this is Astacoides madagascariensis. So I had them before, I got them from an exporter from Madagascar, but this one I found in nature, and this is the exciting thing about it. It is a beautiful species, and at least I could close this chapter with the expedition to the north, because the next trip in Madagascar will be to the south. But this one, I was happy to find these guys. There are not too many around, and hopefully in 10 years we will still have them, but it doesn't look good for the species because people still eat them, they hunt them, even if it's forbidden, they do it. So it's a bit tricky here. So after this we got invited by a lady from this little settlement. It was not even a town, it was like a couple of little houses, huts, probably not houses, these are huts. So she invited us for dinner, and I said why not, because I was curious about how they live. I wanted to go inside, and this is how they live on the countryside in Madagascar. And after the dinner we went on the way back because we wanted to go to another national park that is in the south of Madagascar. So on the way back we stopped, and again we ate a little bit of rice and all of these other things. And on the roads, on the sides of the roads, you always will find people that want to sell you some stuff, and here we have people selling eels. And then the next chapter that I will present you soon is the south of Madagascar, with lemurs, with crayfish, with very interesting stuff. I think the south is much more interesting, and here we have a plant that nobody knows exactly what it is. Me neither. Do you know what it is? But this in the next episode. And if you want, you can subscribe. See you next time. Thanks for watching this little doku. See you soon.